1. On my last day at a summer job as a waitress, my driving instructor from high school was seated at one of my tables. I serve him and his wife a lovely lunch, and he uses a coupon, bringing his total to $18 and some change. He puts one $20 bill in the book. I ring it up and bring his change back to the table, asking him if he would like his change. It can sometimes be assumed that the change could be a tip, but of course I would never assume that unless the customer had said something to me like, "Keep the change." He looks me dead in the eye and says, "Yeah, I want my change, and the other $20 I gave you." Now, as a teacher, this guy was always a jokester. I gave a little half laugh. "Are you pulling my leg?" He looks at me angrily. "I'm dead serious. I thought you would be smart enough to know that you should break the extra 20 for a guest so they can tip you. But I guess you don't want a tip." That has never happened in my experience, and I would guess that if he cared about getting his money back, he would have told me how he wanted his change in the first place, but whatever. I stared at him blankly, waiting for him to laugh at me and for all this to be over. I open the book again, but there's no extra $20 bill. He yells at me to trace my steps and insists that I check the register, that it will be in there. Or at least it better be. He literally gaslit me into believing I had lost his other $20 bill. I checked the drawer, the floor, even my apron. Nothing. I never saw a second $20 bill because there never was one. But nevertheless, he accused me of stealing from him and asked to speak to the owner. I only met the owner once at my interview and had to sulk to the back to summon him from his office. "Table 10 wants to talk to you." I finished bussing the last of my tables and the lunch shift and told the dishwasher what happened. He peeks out to the table I was talking about and recognized him as his old football coach. He assured me that he truly was the biggest asshole to walk the planet, and an even bigger cheapskate. I had in fact been scammed. But it was time to clock out, and my face was getting hot from holding back tears, so I left without defending myself. My guess is that the owner believed him, especially since it was my last day, and gave him $20 from the drawer. I am too scared to include this job in my application because I think the owner thinks I am a thief. To this day, I am so afraid of being blamed and accused of anything, whether true or not. I am terrified of making mistakes or even looking like I did something wrong. So I am constantly overcompensating, watching my back, and practicing scenarios in my head for how I will explain to my manager that I did not in fact steal from the cash drawer, when I had never and would never do such a thing in the first place. I also sometimes think I am lying when I am telling the truth, causing me to act suspicious when I am literally just stating facts. I distrust myself, and I'm constantly paranoid of what my superiors think of me, despite me being the hardest working, most trustworthy employee I know. Fuck scammers, fuck shitty customers, and fuck liars. 2. So I'm Mexican. I grew up with my mom telling me all white people hated us, because to them, anyone who is not white is trash. She was not happy, in the beginning, that my then boyfriend, now husband, was white, and explicitly told me that if I ever went anywhere near his mom, I was to act like I was in the presence of the Queen so she wouldn't call the cops on me to have me deported. Which wouldn't have happened because I was born here. Why am I telling you this? Well, because I ended up marrying this man and obviously got close to his mom, as in spent a lot of time in her house, and she very quickly noticed how uncomfortable I was around her and mentioned to hubby. He explained to her why, and she decided to prove me and my mom wrong about her alleged racism by telling me the story of the one time she had to deal with racists herself. You see, my mother-in-law wasn't just any server, she was one of the top servers at one of the top chains of semi-luxurious restaurants, so obviously a lot of the people that went in there were well off enough that they thought they were untouchable and could get away with anything. So in comes this table who decides that their server is just a little too black. They take it upon themselves to let the poor young man know just how much his blackness bothered them before demanding a new server. Child goes to the back and, like everyone else who's ever worked in a restaurant, starts venting on his way to a manager. My mother-in-law, petite blonde-haired, green-eyed white lady, hears this and walks behind the kid to let the manager know that she'll be taking the table. And so she does, with her manager off to the side watching. She goes out there, gives him her best smile and friendliest greetings. She asked if they'd been there before, and they say yes, and they'll be ordering their favorite dishes. She says okay and waits for them to order, but doesn't write anything down. One of the well-off ladies notices and asks if she has a really good memory, as this is an a la carte place. They'll all have orders on the large side, and there's at least 5 people. How does my mother-in-law respond? I don't need to write your order, because I won't be putting it in. I just wanted to show you how a decent human being is supposed to treat others, even when they don't like the other person. With that, she turned around to walk away. They stop her to demand the big boss in the building, to which she responded by pointing out her manager, the biggest, angriest-looking black man wearing a suit that day. The table got up and left without a word, and I've been able to get closer to my husband's mom. Also, my mom got over her paranoid racism, for the most part. 3. I was doing a whole day shift, which included opening the gates, regularly cleaning and wiping, restocking, and then doing it all over again at the end. The restaurant has 2 main lights, one on the floor where the customers are and one for the kitchen and register. The restaurant also has several signs that state its open, close, and time of operations. I only opened the work area lights and kept the other half closed. The TVs are off, the Christmas decoration lights are off. Nothing is open at the front, even the chairs are up. As I'm prepping the fryer, the stove, restocking the lowboy, etc., I can hear the door being pulled. I look over to see a couple trying to figure out how to open the door. The lady pulls the door, then pushes the door, but it won't budge. Her problem-solving cap came on, and thought to use both hands to get more power as she pries the door open both ways. Her significant other comes up to the door and only proves why they're together. He decides to put his shoulders into it because clearly the door was a test of strength to see if you were worthy to enter the restaurant. Shoulders didn't work, so he uses his foot and tries to push himself off the wall while pulling the door. Still fails. You may wonder to yourself, are they customers or robbers? If they were the latter, then they're the lamest thieves in existence, since they were doing it right in front of a pair of cops. This keeps going as a 3rd individual arrives. He attempts the same thing as the couple and tries to open the doors with the same effort and fails. I could have told him the restaurant was not yet ready, but I had rice to wash. During the hour of my prep phase, I can see the customers pressing their hands onto the glass wall and their eyes to their hands to see the inside. One of them was next to the "Sorry, we're closed" sign that I have yet to flip to the open side. They stop trying to peek and instead jiggle the door handle. Nothing. So they wait. And finally a thought rang in their head once they saw me mopping the front floor. They proceeded to call the restaurant. I took the call. "Are you open?" "Not until 12 p.m. "Oh, okay." I thought that was the end, except the 3rd customer decides to try the door again, but was disappointed to see that it was still closed. I had 20 minutes left before the restaurant was open. I decided to humor them and opened the door. "Can I help you?"
Oh, good. Can we come in?
"No, not yet. We're not open till 12 p.m. I point to the sign. They stare blankly, then confusedly, then look back at me, then at the sign, and at the couple. I slowly close the door and lock it. I proceed with my usual morning and day routine, and eventually I let them in at 12 p.m., like the sign says, like what I told my trainees and what my manager has told me. Could I have done a better job at this? Probably. But this COVID lockdown, restaurant downsizing, and doubled responsibilities have brought my mood and enthusiasm at a near all-time low. Holidays are not making it any better. I'm partly writing this as a form of venting and as a way to relax by sharing my woes as a restaurant worker. I'm sure some of you are prepping your response to this saying that I am a terrible employee for teasing them like that. This is but a sample of the many hand-holdings, face-palming, and reasons to drink heavily moments I have to deal with during the last 6 to 7 months in this restaurant. My hospitable nature has degraded over time, as I have been yelled, demoralized, and put down by people who still act like the usual customers before COVID. Hopefully it'll get better, Hopefully it goes better for all of you who read this. 4. A few fun interactions lately I'd like to share. Fella comes in, is seated, take a drink order, return with the wine requested to find his arm blocking off the table. He's turned to the side speaking to his wife, laughing and whatnot. Eventually notices me there with his drink, 5-ish seconds, not like an eternity. Looks at me, moves his arm and says, "I'm sorry, I was being insulted." I set his drink down, and I replied, "I apologize. I didn't think you could hear me." Risky, but paid off. Haha. Early on in the mask-wearing times, I have a black mask that suits serving well, matches the clothes, apron, etc. Kid sees me and says,
You look like a professional ninja.
"Don't be ridiculous. I'm an amateur." Fella and his wife, little kid, come in, order food. Moments before the order is ready, the kid's being fussy and don't want to disturb the other customers. Ask to get the food to go. No problem. I tell the chef. He's a bit confused as it rarely happens and language barrier stuff, but he gets the message and wraps it up to go. I add a complimentary piece of cake to their order, explaining I hadn't gotten the chance to tempt him with it later in the evening. Have a great night. Fella was legit moved by the gesture, as it turns out it was her daughter's first birthday. Whenever a customer makes a self-deprecating joke about themselves trying to pronounce one of the dishes, I remember that when the food's ready, I tell them I checked with the chef, and your pronunciation was perfect, of chicken and Coke. The furnace was broken for a while, and it was cold. I wore my jacket. The owner always told me to take it off. I told him I would when customers came in. But occasionally it got busy suddenly, and I'd find myself with 20 more important things to do than adjust my attire. He said it looks unprofessional for a waiter to wear a coat. You don't look like a waiter. I told him it was unprofessionally cold. If I was busy, I usually got hot in it anyhow, and it came off at my earliest inconvenience. A problem that solved itself. I offered to buy a new jacket, one that was to his liking aesthetically, win-win. Just look online, pick it out, and I'd order it that night. No, just wear another shirt. I was wearing 2 long-sleeve shirts that Friday. It got a bit busy and I got a bit warm, so I took the couple minutes to go to the restroom, remove my apron and second shirt, put on my apron again, straighten everything up, adjust my belt slightly, wash up, and head back out to do my job. In that time, several tables' food was ready, and the owner was real upset with how long I was gone. So I explained to him I had to remove my second shirt, and it wasn't as easy to remove mid-service as a jacket would be. He was trying to make me take responsibility for the weight the customers had, but zero remorse, he brought this situation on himself. The next day, I asked to take a smoke break before any customers had shown up for dinner. He said sure, but don't take it out front, I don't want customers to see you. I told him don't worry, I'll be wearing my jacket. No one would confuse me for a waiter. Fun fact, only 2 customers have said anything about my jacket in the year we've been open. Both of them said, "Nice jacket." No mention of it in any review. I have no idea what the basis for his concern was. It's strange the things people think a waiter and server shouldn't do. Like be seen cleaning. If I see someone cleaning, I think, good, they clean. Or be seen eating food from the restaurant. That's a sign it's good food. And likely they treat their service people to a meal, which is a good practice, or at the very least, the employee isn't afraid the food will kill them. I don't do anything without at the very least a bad reason. If someone asks me to do something, I'm likely to ask why, if I don't already know. Some of my bosses have treated that why as a no, which it certainly is not. Bonus fun thing. I came back after a day off to find an open bottle of wine. Not an uncommon thing to find, but this one intrigued me. It wasn't cleaned up nicely after it was opened. I have a little pop-out knife on my keyring I used to cut the loose and often sharp edges from the material used to seal the bottle. Some of them are shrink wrap, paper, wax, or metallic. The metallic ones can really slice you if you're not careful. Anyhow, this one had a metal top, and it had jagged edges pointing in all directions and bent away from the opening. Whoever opened this clearly didn't finesse its open and was having a bad day. What made this clear is this bottle wasn't sealed with a cork. The metal seal was a twist-open variety. 5. I have a story for you all. It happened to me over 20 plus years ago, so I might be a tad fuzzy on the details. I used to work for a national pizza restaurant franchise as a server, back during a time when we were called waiters and waitresses. I started as a waitress at one location, and in my over 2-year stint with the company, I moved up to head waitress and was training as a shift supervisor when I was transferred to a new location. 3 months after my transfer, we ended up with a new store manager. Pizza restaurant franchise, like most, serves beer and wine by the glass and pitcher, and has a liquor license. I live in the South, in a part of the US that is sometimes called the Bible Belt, and some of our alcohol laws are stricter than the rest of the country. I should also tell you that at the time, I was friends with a few ALE, alcohol law enforcement officers, and because of those friendships, I knew the alcohol laws in my state backward and forward. This is important. On with the story. This particular pizza franchise prided themselves on customer service, sometimes to the detriment of their employees. This franchise, at the time, at least in our county, would also tend to bend and break the laws concerning alcohol if it meant fewer customer complaints to corporate. Some of the manager bonuses were tied to how few customer complaints they had. The waitstaff usually got caught in the middle in these situations. About 2 months before we got the new manager, my state imposed a new law and stiff penalties in regard to purchasing open alcohol not sold in a sealed container. The law changed from requiring ID for anyone that looked to be under the age of 40 to requiring ID for anyone wishing to purchase open alcohol, regardless of age. It also forbade us from selling open alcohol if anyone at the table was under 21. Penalties for not enforcing this law: $50,000 fine to the business, $5,000 fine to the individual seller and server. Seller and server could face jail time for up to 1 year, and business automatically lost liquor license for 5 years for first offense. ALE would go undercover to restaurants and bars with a liquor license to test to see if businesses were enforcing this new law. Since we served beer on tap and wine by the glass, we had to enforce this new law as head waitress. I made sure all of our waitstaff knew of it and the penalties for not enforcing it. I also followed it to the letter, carding each and every person that came into our restaurant wanting to purchase beer or wine with their food. The new law didn't sit well with customers, and when waitstaff started refusing alcohol to people in their 50s and 60s because they didn't have their ID with them, customers started to complain. First to the manager, then to corporate. Corporate and manager sided with the customers, throwing waitstaff under the bus. I don't know if corporate understood the new liquor law in our state, but if they did, they chose to ignore it. It got so bad many of the waitstaff stopped enforcing the law because management didn't back us up. I, however, still enforced the law because I knew what it meant if I didn't. My manager didn't like that very much, and was a constant thorn in my side because of it. I lost my shift supervisor training, then my hours were cut because I wouldn't back down. Then the manager started sending me home if I received 3 complaints in a single night. Because I enforced this new law, I would get more than 3 usually in the first 2 hours of my shift. Even after I explained that this was a new state law, I was losing tips and losing hours, but I refused to back down. It all came to a head one really busy Saturday night. It's about 8:30 that night, and we were slammed. Turnaround on tables was less than 2 minutes. A group of 4 had just been seated in my section, a group of 40 plus in age, and I walked over to greet them. "Hi, my name is Lady Storm, and I'll be your waitress this evening." I saw they already had menus. "If you like, I can go ahead and take your drink order while you look over the menu."
What beer do you have on draft?
We have a list of beer choices. We also have the House Chardonnay and House Zinfandel, if anyone's interested.
Want to get a picture of light beer?
I'd like to get a glass of House Chardonnay, please.
Customers 1 and 3 agree to share a pitcher of light beer. Excellent, I can get that for you. I just need to see everyone's ID, please.
What? You gotta be kidding. We're obviously over 40. Are you blind or just stupid?
I gave the group my best sympathetic smile. I know it does seem ridiculous, doesn't it? Unfortunately, it's a new law passed about a month ago. We're now required to ask for ID for anyone wanting to purchase alcohol regardless of age.
But I didn't bring my ID with me. I've never had an issue before. Surely you can make an exception. It's my birthday. We came to celebrate.
I'm very sorry, ma'am, but I could get a $5,000 fine and a year in jail if I get caught breaking this new law. I'm afraid it's just not worth the risk, no matter how stupid the law is. So if you can't produce your ID, I'm afraid I just can't serve you the alcohol.
Wow, are you serious? Cupid 3, here are my keys. Go get your purse out of the trunk.
Cupid 3 mumbles about how ridiculous this all is as she grabs the keys and heads for the door. A few minutes later, she comes back in. All 4 of them show me IDs and I get their drink order. I bring back their beer and wine and see my manager talking to the 4 of them. I know what's coming next, but I square my shoulders, increase my smile, and head to the table. Here you go, a pitcher of light beer with 3 mugs and a glass of house Chardonnay for the lady. Have you had time to decide what you'd like to order, or would you care for another few minutes? The manager says,
Actually, I need your help for a few minutes. Other waitress is going to take over this table for a bit. Can you come with me, please?
Sure. I turn to the group. I hope you lady and gentlemen have a good evening, and happy birthday, by the way. I smiled and followed my manager to the back when he exploded.
Damn it, Lady Storm. How many times do I have to tell you this? You are being ridiculous with carding everyone that orders a beer. I had to comp half their meal just to keep them from calling corporate. That's the 2nd time tonight. I've cut your hours. I've even suspended you. Do I need to fire your ass to get my point across? I've already lost my bonus because of complaints about you. What is it going to take?
Are you or corporate going to pay my $5,000 fine or keep me out of jail if I get busted? How much business will you have if you lose your liquor license? You and corporate would throw me under the bus to CYA. Well, I can't afford a $5,000 fine, and I'm not going to jail for a year so you can get a bonus that you don't share with us anyway. So either fire me or let me get back to my job.
I'm tired of your attitude. This is your last shift as head waitress. If I get one more complaint about you carding people that don't need to be carded, you are gone. Do I make myself clear?
I want it in writing that you are demoting me because of customer complaints for refusing alcohol to anyone who doesn't have ID. Now, are you sending me home or can I get back to my customers?
Just get out of my sight and do your job. You'll have your write-up before you leave tonight.
Fast forward to 3 hours later. It's slowing down enough that we can start to do our pre-close cleanup. There's one other waitress and she leaves at midnight. I had 2 tables that are lingering over coffee, when a dark stranger is seated in my section. This guy had bad boy written all over him. Somewhere between 55, 65, dressed in biker's leathers, dark graying hair and beard, with a motorcycle helmet sitting on the table beside him. He was intimidating. So I screw on a friendly smile and walked over. Good evening, I'm Lady Storm, and I'm your server tonight. If you wish, I can get your drink order while you look at the menu.
I got a friend joining me in a few minutes. We already know what we want. I don't need the menu.
No-nonsense customers that know what they want. I like it. What can I get for you then?
A supreme pan pizza, order of breadsticks, a pitcher of beer, and 2 mugs.
Yes, sir. I'll need to see both of your IDs. If you'll show me yours now, I'll go ahead and get your pitcher and mug. Once your friend shows me his, I'll bring out his mug. Do you want the breadsticks to come out first or both together?
Why do you need to see our IDs? Half my hair is gray, and my friend's got even more gray than me. We're obviously old enough to drink.
I understand, sir, I really do. Unfortunately, a new law passed 2 months ago, requiring us to card anyone purchasing open alcohol regardless of age.
I ain't heard of this new law. What if I ain't got my ID?
Then I'm afraid I can't serve you the beer. I'm really very sorry, but I have to see your and your friend's ID if you want a pitcher.
Listen here, girl. I've been old enough to drink since before you were born. It's obvious I'm over 21. Are you trying to be disrespectful?
Sir, I mean no disrespect, I really don't. But it's the law, and I can get into a lot of trouble if I break it. I'm sorry, but I just can't risk it.
So that's your final word? If I and my friend don't show our ID, you ain't going to serve us?
If I can't see your IDs, I can't serve you the beer. I'm sorry.
I demand you go get your manager and bring him here. I want to speak to him or her immediately.
Of course, sir, I'll go get him. I turned to walk away, and a second man about the same age walked over and sat down with the guy. I hear from behind me,
I want to see both of you back here, you got that?
So I went and got my manager, told him I had customers demanding to speak with both of us. He took one look at my face and smiled.
This will be your third complaint of the night. This is your last night. Just remember, you were warned.
So I showed my manager to the dark stranger's table, where a second man is now sitting about the same age.
I understand you wish to speak with me. What seems to be the problem, sir?
This waitress carded me for beer. Do I look like I'm under 21 or even under 40 to you?
My manager smiled, and I could see the gleam of anticipation in his eyes.
No, sir. Of course you look like you're more than old enough to buy alcohol. I understand your frustration. I've actually had numerous complaints about this, waitress. I promise I will handle the situation.
Dark stranger and friend whip out pretty shiny badges, each stamped with ALE. The manager's smile faded.
I wanted to compliment you on such a well-trained and determined waitstaff. I just tried to purchase an open pitcher of alcohol in your establishment without showing my ID. This young lady is very knowledgeable about the new alcohol laws, and she politely enforced it, no matter how much I pushed. I'm sure you were well aware of the new law and its penalties.
Well...
I'll bet this young lady knows, don't you?
Dark stranger looks at me with a smile. For the business, $50,000 and a loss of liquor license for 5 years on the first offense. $500,000 in permanent loss of liquor license for repeat offense. For the individual, $5,000 fine and up to 1 year in jail for first offense. $10,000 fine and up to 5 years in jail for repeat offense.
Wait, we could lose our liquor license for 5 years on the first offense? No warning?
Not can, will, automatically, no warning. As manager, you will also receive that $5,000 fine and up to 1 year in jail, since it's your responsibility to ensure your employees are enforcing the law.
I don't think our corporate knows this new law. I've never heard nothing about it.
Manager's eyes glanced my way as he said it.
It passed 3 months ago. Enforcement started 2 months ago. It's your job to keep up with new laws, and corporate will know after tonight. ALE hit 5 of your locations tonight. So far, you are the only location that didn't lose their liquor license. Good job, young lady. Sorry for being rude.
It's okay. Did you still want your order? His friend pipes in.
Actually, yes. Everything but the beer. We're still on duty. Can I just get a sweet tea instead? And I'll take a Coke, please.
Coming right up, gentlemen. I had the biggest shit-eating grin on my face as I walked back to get their drinks and put in their order. Needless to say, I didn't get fired, demoted, or written up that night. And after a call to corporate, I was able to continue my training for shift supervisor. I found out later from my ALE friends that the company pizza chain restaurants in our county had been under surveillance for a month prior to the undercover agents coming to our stores. Our location was one of the first 5 that ALE investigated. My location was the only one that passed. Manager was fired 4 months later on an unrelated incident. Incidentally, the state repealed that law a year later due to constituent backlash, but by then I had moved on to something else. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, episode 124. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Well, I've had this one sitting waiting to be recorded for a couple of months now, so everything Worked out quite well. And that last story was very, very satisfying, wasn't it? It is nice to hear poopy bosses get put in their place. Let's see. No, that's not that. Do I 1, 2, 3, 4? I don't. Okay, sorry. Just checking if there was any shoutouts. No one requested a shout out for this video, so that's fine. Right, I'm gonna try. I'm saying this so that I'm kind of committed. I'm gonna try to get a full week done next week. So no video on Sunday, but starting Monday, I'll try and do right through. Not sure if we'll have a recorded freezer stream. We shall see. Today's recording session was not too bad, fairly comfortable. I'm going to get the video made and I'm just going to relax for the rest of the evening. So that's fine, but we'll see. Maybe recorded freezer will happen. It certainly makes me work quicker when I do. So anyway, I'm going to get this done. Then I was going to do a chow mein, but my mushrooms were attacked by flies, so those were not edible at that point. So I had to throw those out because, not even sure how they got into the packages. So I'll do something with the rest of the ingredients, so they'll be minus. I mean, I could put frozen mushrooms in, but it's not the same. Anyway, we'll see. Okay, enough rambling. And with that, I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.